how can you even, who do you think you are? You're leaving this, golden handcuff thing for what? That was so validating to me.
Welcome to the Go Hunt Life Show, hosted by Todd Nevins.
This is Todd Nevins, and I explore stories about people that had seemingly normal lives and careers going, but they pulled the ripcord and blew up their comfort bubbles to hunt down their life that they had always dreamed of living. On the show today, I speak with Cissy Jones. 10 years ago, she was living the Silicon Valley startup life of 100-hour work weeks, sleeping at the office, and was smothered by the "what have you done for me lately" mentality of that world. When one day her aunt asked her a really simple question: what would your dream job be? Her answer? I want to be a voice on The Simpsons. A lot has changed since answering that question 10 years ago, and today, this is Cissy Jones.
Bad mojo is in the air this week. Thanks for the warning, Max.
I know what you must be going through. Really, I do. But I could use your cooperation.
Don't we get a say? As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for evil is with me. As long as they keep getting food from them, you'll be safe. I promise.
Cissy is a professional voice actor in LA, a massive voice in the gaming world, and just earned one of the highest awards in her industry by the BAFTA Games Awards that honors outstanding creative achievement in the video game industry. Thank you to Randall Ryan, a fellow podcaster and friend back in Austin, for introducing me to Cissy. If you or you know of someone that pulled the ripcord to completely reinvent their life, I'd love to know about it. You can reach me at gohuntlife.com. And I interviewed Cissy while I was sitting in a concrete conference room in Guanajuato, Mexico, which is an outstanding city. But any background noise is definitely on me. And on that note, a shout out to my editing crew at Castle Media Group in Austin. Thank you, Thomas Umstadt and the crew there, for putting this episode together. And now my conversation with Cissy Jones is coming up next. This episode is sponsored by PrintDirtCheap.com. Jeff Chrisman, the founder of Print Dirt Cheap, started his business the way most companies begin, with grit, determination, and a vision. And now, a decade later, he's built his company into an online printing powerhouse. If I've handed you a business card in the last 4 years, it was printed by Print Dirt Cheap. And the decals all over my laptop, they printed those too. They print and ship over 30 categories of printing products, from business cards and decals to banners, company letterhead, restaurant menus, and a ton of direct mail pieces. And they have just rolled out an entirely new website, ensuring that your online user experience to place an order is simple and fast. And when you place that order, use promo code LifeHunter for $10 off. And Jeff has just launched Success Hackers, which is a global group of tenacious entrepreneurs that share the latest tips, tools, and hacks into growing a business. Check it out at facebook.com/Success Hackers. Cissy, thank you for jumping on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Where are you located in the world? And if you were to walk outside, describe what you would see.
I am in Los Angeles, California. So if I were to walk outside, I'd see a whole lot of concrete.
Not ocean.
Not ocean, no.
What is your profession and primary ways that you earn a living?
So I am a voice actor, and that means that I lend my voice to all the things that you hear voices on. It's something I never really thought about until I got into this business, but the more you open your mind to think about it, you hear voices everywhere. Whether it's on a call tree, when you call into your bank and, for customer service, press 0, or audio tours or commercials, of course, and animation and video games, but also the more obscure things like in-flight videos and, just the little random things that you never think about that require a voice actor, and that is what I do for money.
That is an interesting profession, and I can't wait to dig into it. But you were not always a professional voice actor. Take me back to your life, whether you want to or not, because you probably don't. But please take me back
for a reason.
Take me back to your life in big old Silicon Valley. How long ago was that, and what were you doing?
So I graduated from college in the early 2000s, right when the bubble burst. And at the time I graduated, the economy was terrible. So I was in this position where I could either move home and live with my parents or someone offered me a job waiting tables at a sushi restaurant in Palo Alto, California. So I moved to Palo Alto, California and waited tables. And from there, I met some people that worked at a venture capital firm, and they eventually brought me in to work as a receptionist and then an admin assistant at their VC firm. And then from there, I went to one of their portfolio companies. So I worked in various aspects of high-tech corporations for about 10 years. And it was a grind.
What was a typical week like?
Oh, man. Well, when I was at the startup, I worked for one startup that was really great, and I was the fourth employee there, and I got to learn everything about growing a business from the ground up. Obviously, I wasn't the ideas person. The ideas person was busy doing the ideas, but I was the one that, secured the office space and got our HR up and running and did all the hiring and the recruiting and the marketing. And it was fascinating, but it was, 100-hour weeks.
How do you fit in 100-hour, describe how you fit in 100 hours of work in a week? Very
little sleep. I mean, it was, you get there at 8 a.m, you might leave at 7 or 8 at night. And at a later company, it was much worse. I would leave at 10 o'clock at night, and then I'd get texts at 3 a.m. And if I didn't answer them, I would be berated in front of my coworkers. Some of the people I worked for were fantastic, and some of the people I worked for weren't. And some demanded different things. It was just a lot of. There was always a fire. There was always a fire to be put out, no matter where you are in the Silicon Valley. It's what have you done for me lately? Yesterday was great, but what about today? And it's just a lot of pressure.
It doesn't seem like that's sustainable long term at all. Like the burnout rate.
I sat and I remember at one of my jobs, we literally bought couches that were comfortable enough for people to sleep on, because that was the intention, that people would sleep at the office. And I looked around one day and I was like, I mean, I could do this. I could slog through this and maybe get promoted enough to be quote unquote important, but do I want this? I mean, I'm really miserable. And, I'm lucky enough that I grew up, my dad is a jeweler out of Boise, Idaho, and loves what he does, and so I watched this very influential figure in my life loving his career. And I remember thinking, wait a minute, why don't I love what I do? This is kind of buggery.
Were you making a bunch of money to subside your disappointment in what you were doing?
Yeah, I was making a ton of money. And that was, it's the golden handcuffs, a ton of money, a ton of stock options, the promise of wealth. And at the same time, my health was deteriorating. I would come home, one of my jobs with the particularly abusive boss, I would come home and just sob. And I was like, this is, I'm in my 20s. Like I'm in my prime. Like what's happening? This is not the way I see my life going. And it was just bad. It was real bad.
What about your personal relationships? What was going on there? Or was there any time at all for that?
I met my husband at one of the startup companies, and I knew right away that we were going to be together. So he was great, and he was always incredibly supportive, and still is. And I've always been one to make friends easily. So I had a really great network of friends, and we would all kind of meet up and complain about the slog and whatever. So that was okay. A lot of my friendships existed over AOL Instant Messenger, because that was the only time I had.
All right. It sounds like there were many things that were pointing you in a completely different direction. Was there one final thing that pushed you into, which is kind of odd, like, I'm going to be a voice actor? Like, how does that happen?
Well, it was bananas. So I went to Alaska with my now husband. I have family up there, and we went out on the open ocean for 9 days, just a vacation, unplugged, no cell phones. It was glorious.
Wow.
And we were out there one of those days, and my aunt, who is one of my favorite human beings on planet Earth, she said, "What's your dream job, sis? Like, if you could do anything at all, what would you do?" And I said, I've always wanted to be a voice on The Simpsons, but I'm pretty sure you just have to live in Hollywood. I didn't even know it was called voiceover, I just thought you had to be famous or like know famous people or whatever. And so that was that. So about 2 weeks after we got home from that trip, I was getting ready for work one of those mornings. And Nancy Cartwright, who was the voice of Bart Simpson, came on the radio to promote the movie. And she said, you guys in the Bay Area, you're so lucky. Well, let's see if I can do it like her. You guys in the Bay Area, you're so lucky. You have one of the best voiceover schools in the country right here. And I was like, what?
That was pretty good.
And I picked up the phone that day and I started taking classes that week. And 2 years later, I had enough validation from people that I trust in the industry to quit my job and go at it full force.
No, within 2 weeks?
I'm sorry, 2 years. 2 years.
2 years. Okay. So
yeah.
you started taking classes and then for 2 years you did both?
Yeah.
How?
It was long. I mean, I would go to work until 6 and then I would have to drive an hour and a half to get to the school and do the class until 10 and then come home and work until 2 or 3 in the morning and then, wake up at 7 and start over again. But it was worth it to me because I could see the end game.
Yeah. What was there? How did you quit your real job? Was there one like big grand like fireworks and parade and you storm out of the office and your favorite song is blaring? Like, how did it go down?
Did you ever see Office Space?
Yes.
So do you remember the scene where she's like, I hate this job. I hate this goddamn job and I don't need it.
Yes.
That was like playing in my head over and over. I didn't actually say that.
Okay.
But there was a particularly bad day where I was like, F this place. And, quite frankly, they were like, F you, get out. And it was great. It was devastating because I came home and I got on the phone and I called my recruiter and I was, oh God, I have to get another job. I'm getting married and my.
Oh, wait. That was your thought? Get another job?
Yeah, that was well, because I wasn't making money doing voiceover yet. And I was getting married. And so I had to have something to help pay for, right? Anyway, my now husband came home and he was like, what are you doing? You hate this. You hate this. But you found that and you love that. Do you know how rare it is to find that thing that you love and you're actually good at? Go do that. And so he really believed in me. He pushed me. He encouraged me. And still to this day, he's my biggest champion. And that was all I needed. And so I poured myself whole hog into becoming an actor, from having a business degree to becoming an actor.
And you were still in the Bay Area. Did you complete, is there ever a completing of training, or did you complete that school?
Well, it's interesting the way that it's run, and that, they offer kind of the full breadth of voiceover courses. You can do video games, or you can do animation, or you can do commercial, blah, blah, blah. And I had done enough in the various tracks and had enough people be like, you've got it. You have it. You should go do it. And I got signed to an agent in San Francisco, and I think the second audition I did, I booked, which was for the Walking Dead game by Telltale.
Your second audition.
Mm-hmm.
How did that feel?
Oh my God. Over the moon, insane, incredible. Scream it from the mountaintops, take an ad out in the New York Times. It was incredible. And it was such an amazing experience. And then shortly thereafter, I got signed to an agent in Los Angeles while I was still living in the Bay Area, which is really tricky to do. But I had known my agent when I was just starting. His name's Dean Pinero. And he was like, listen, we're going to make a lot of money together. Let's just do this. And I was like, yep.
So how soon after that did you move to LA?
So we moved to LA in June of 2011. And that was about 6 months after he had signed me down here.
Is it required to be successful to live in Los Angeles in your profession?
It depends on what type of voiceover you want to do. If you want to do animation, yeah. If especially if you want to do union work, I mean, a lot of the good union work is Los Angeles, Chicago, New York. Mostly Los Angeles, right? There is some stuff that happens in other parts of the country, but there's a ton of non-union work that happens. I know people in middle America making a good 6-figure income doing non-union work. But it's just a matter of numbers, right? I really wanted to be surrounded by people that made me be better. And I knew that in order to do that, I needed to be in Los Angeles.
How was that first year or 2 years? I mean, you hear the stories, all of the people moving to LA to be famous, and that's a tough town. How was that first year to 2 years?
It was fucking brutal, and pardon my French. Now, I will say the voiceover community, the people, my peers, are incredible. And I met a fantastic group of people right away who I'm still very tight with. It's a really, really supportive, incredible group, which you don't often find in actors, right? But in terms of booking work, it was rough. And the reason is because you've got all the legends still here, still working. So I'm still competing against the Tara Strongs and the Gray Delisles and the Kari Walgrens and the Candy Milos who've been working for 15, 20 years, and they know it. They know the beats like the back of their hand. But I'm also an unknown quantity. So I moved from a new city where, yeah, I'm working a ton in San Francisco. That's nice, kid. Welcome to the big leagues. And nobody knows my name. Nobody knows my product. Nobody knows my brand. Nobody knows who I am or why they should care. I'm just another name of some new kid that's moved to town. So it was a long journey of getting out there.
Yeah. Your agent can only do so much. They can send you on auditions, and that's just one piece of a really big puzzle. How did you take your experience in Silicon Valley, your business experience, your business background, your degree? Like, how did you incorporate that into the Cissy Jones business of getting out there and booking?
Well, I think honestly, that's what sets me apart now. Because you're right. My agent, who I adore, it's his job to get me opportunities. It's my job to convert them, right? It's my job to run the business. It's just his job to get me the opportunities and to make sure that people are knowing who I am, right? Okay, so it's my job to go to the workshops. It's my job to go to classes, to get constantly improving, to find different avenues that maybe I'm not so good at and get good at. To know what I bring, to know that I'm not going to audition for little kids. Right. I don't sit in that range. It's really hard for me to maintain a childlike sound. Okay. So I know that about myself, but I can do moms. I can do wicked queens. I can do old ladies. You know what I mean? So knowing where my strengths are and really crushing them.
Support for this podcast and the following message comes from Click Placement, a digital agency designing Google AdWords and pay-per-click marketing strategies for startups, small businesses, and even people building a side hustle. Hit up clickplacement.com to start a conversation. If you would like to personally support the Go Hunt Life podcast, go to patreon.com/Go Hunt Life to make a donation.
Who was helping you through that process?
A lot of people. My agent was one of them. He and I have a great relationship in that he's very blunt with me when something's not working. So when I first moved, when you're doing an audition, there's a thing called a slate at the beginning of your audition, which is where you say your name. You just say your name, Cissy Jones, and then you launch into the thing. I desperately wanted it so bad. So I was like, I'm going to get him in my slate. Cissy Jones, and it was so bad. He called me and he was like, "You're so desperate to book. I smell it in your slate. If I smell it, they smell it, and no one books desperation." And he was absolutely right. So I started going to, classes, one-on-ones, group classes, talking with other people, really listening to the stuff that's being produced and finding confidence. There's a huge part of it that's just confidence.
Is that just experience, or are there other aspects that you found your confidence in?
I think experience is a part of it, but I was also so green. So how could I have experience to back that up? I know I'm an intelligent person. I know I'm competent. I know what I know. And I know that when I was taking classes in the Bay Area, the feedback I got was always good. Okay, so let's take that and put some confidence in it.
When you were searching for your confidence and going through the fucking brutal rejection, was there ever a time where you thought, man, I might have made a mistake?
No.
Not once.
No, because as soon as you start second guessing yourself, the game's over. You know what I mean?
It is.
I know a lot of people in this business, because it can be really brutal. it's a gig economy, so it's peaks and valleys all the time, and the valleys can be real tough to ride out. And I know a lot of people that are like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I should just quit. And I'm like, yeah, you should, because if you're not confident, it goes back to this. They smell it in the slate. Nobody wants to work with desperation. Nobody. So if I start second guessing myself, I'm done.
And anyone else's as well. Was there one tipping point early on, or when you finally felt like you had your confidence, you found it, and you were on a roll? Was there one moment where you can point to?
Right after I got that call from my agent and I started working really hard on building up my confidence, I booked a local grocery store. So I still go in 6 years later and do their weekly specials.
Whoa, 6 years.
6 years. That's a dream, right? So booking that was like, okay, Jones, you can do this.
Now you are 10 years removed. Your career has exploded. What types of acting do you do now? And what are you most famous for?
I'm probably most famous for video games, for now. I work in a lot of video games. The Walking Dead was the one that springboarded me up, and from there I worked in, Grand Theft Auto 5 and Batman Arkham Knight, and then a couple of years ago, I was approached by the guys that wrote The Walking Dead and said, "Hey, we've left our company. We started a new company. We're writing a new game with a female protagonist. We want you. Are you in?" And you say yes. And so I worked on that game, and it was their debut game called Firewatch. And it went on to great acclaim, and I actually won an award out of it, which was completely unexpected.
What award?
It's called the BAFTA. It's the British Academy of Film and Television Arts Award, and video games.
Your acceptance speech, which is on YouTube, it is obvious with every ounce of you that you are incredibly passionate about what you do, your industry, everything about it. What drives that passion?
I know how shitty it is on the other side for me. Like, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to be bagging groceries at Trader Joe's. I love this life. I love that I can spend time with my family on days that I don't have work. I love that I can explore other avenues of work when I'm not working in a particular area. I love that I've been able to build a career and make good money doing something that brings me so much joy. And I don't want to go back to a joyless existence.
That is a good line. You've got a huge range of characters, and in voice acting, your appearance doesn't matter, and therefore you've got a range across the board. What have been some of the toughest characters that you've done so far?
Well, emotionally, there was a character in The Walking Dead named Katya, and she was someone this was the first job that I had. She was someone that reminded me of someone very dear to me, who was married to a hothead, who was always kind of in control of the emotions, who loses her son. And going through that emotionally was devastating, which sounds so silly, but but it really, my job is to believe it, and I believed it.
When you're in the booth, were you her?
Oh God, I'm sobbing. Just waterworks. The other people on the end of the line were sobbing because it was crazy. I would have dreams about it, nightmares about it. It was bananas. In terms of vocal placement, I don't really do anything that hurts my voice. You know what I mean?
How do you prepare for a character that you may not have a personal example in your life? Like, how do you prepare for a character that is completely different than anything that you've ever been able to relate to?
Research. So I'll spend a lot of time researching, maybe like if I read something and it reminds me of like Juliette Lewis, I'll go and watch videos of her and see what her mannerisms are, and how she has this tough girl outside, but she looks kind of like she's kind of sweet on the inside. You know what I mean? And just finding that little grain that I can hold on to during an audition or during a session or all of it. just research. I love watching people. People are so fascinating to me.
And you mentioned a few minutes ago the award that you won, and that was last year. What month was that? How long ago was it?
I think that was April of 2016.
Of 2016 or 2017?
I'm sorry, 2017. The game came out 2016.
Okay. How has your career changed since that award, if at all?
Yeah, so the interesting thing about voiceover is that it's not like people are banging down my door going, oh my God, we have to have you for this thing. I still audition, but I just have a little more name recognition. So in a casting call of 3,000 people, my name stands out a little bit more, and that's great.
What's a typical week look like now?
Because it's a gig economy, it changes all the time. This week has been bananas. I've had 3 sessions a day, which is fantastic and really crazy to try to get from place to place. The week before that, I think I had like 3 sessions in the entire week.
Wow. Peaks and valleys still after 10 years.
Yeah. Oh, always. And that's one of the things you store up for during the peaks, right? You store up, okay, it's crazy right now, but that's good. This is going to last me through the next valley.
Is there one experience of the last 10 years that you think about the most and you think defines this entire decision to pull the ripcord on the Silicon Valley life and pursue this? Honestly,
being up there on that stage, accepting the award, when so many people told me I would never, I was crazy. How can you even? Who do you think you are? You're leaving this, golden handcuff thing for what? That was so validating to me to be like, okay, so a group of people that I've never met think that I deserve this thing for this job that I got to work on. That was, how much more validation do you need? Incredible.
So speak to yourself sitting at your desk or sleeping on that shitty couch 10 years ago. If you could go back in time and wake yourself up and give you 1 minute of advice, what would you say to yourself?
Don't change anything. Soak it in, learn everything you can, and know that something better is coming. Honestly, I don't think I would be where I am if I hadn't gone through what I did.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. What are you focused on in the next 6 months? And I also want to point out something that you said. You said voice video games for now. What do you have in store for yourself?
Well, I've started working a bit more in animation, which is great. I'm hoping to crack that nut a little wider open. I've also started to work a little bit more in trailers, which is not something women are doing very much of. And I want to make that the new normal.
What does that mean? What do you mean trailers? What is that?
In a World, coming August 3rd. You know what I mean? It's always men. Look at any trailer you've seen in the last 50 years, and it's always men.
Yeah, you are right.
I'm doing trailers now, and I want to make it even.
Is there a genre that you feel needs it more than others, or maybe a little bit easier for you to get into compared to others?
I have done trailers for like a horror film. I've done like a spoof. I did a trailer last year for John Wick 2, because it was coming out the same day as 50 Shades of whatever the hell. And so they did like a, this Valentine's Day, everybody gets some action, so kind of a spoof type thing. This year, I don't know if I'm allowed to say what it is yet, but it's an action comedy. And I want all the things. I think all of these incredible opportunities that are coming up for women on screen need to be represented by women in voice as well. I think it's going to become the new normal to hear equally men and women on things like that, and I am here for it. I also work a ton in commercial. I work a little bit in promo. I've narrated an Academy Award nominated documentary film, all over the place. I love it.
Is there anything that's coming out soon that you would like to promote?
There's an animated show that just came out on Amazon called Little Big Awesome that is adorable. I play the nail file in charge of the inconvenience store, and I can't be bothered and stuff. It's a really sweet show. There's a bunch of games coming out that I can't tell you anything about, but I am also going to be teaching a class in London in June. And for anybody that can make it to London, it's going to be really, really fun. and I would love to see some people there.
Is teaching something new for you, or have you done that before?
It is something new for me, which is kind of exhilarating. It's always nice to be able to branch out and try something new. I've done it a little bit, and I really enjoy it. There's something about helping someone else find that spark that ignites the flame.
You can find a Cissy at sissyjones.com and on Twitter and Facebook at where else?
Cissy Speaks.
Cissy Speaks. And the YouTube 2016 gaming reel. Do a search on YouTube for that. It is your range is incredible. It is so awesome to hear all of your different characters and see them as well. But it is so cool. And the acceptance speech for BAFTA Games Award 2017 performer. Cissy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Todd, thank you so much. It's been really, really great.
Don't forget to hit up the online printing rock stars at printdirtcheap.com and use promo code LifeHunter for $10 off. Hey, Life Hunters, thank you for listening to this episode of Go Hunt Life. If you like the show and would like to support it, go to iTunes and do this. Subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and review it. It helps, and thank you. If you or someone that you know has quit their normal life to follow their dreams, I would love an introduction and maybe interview them on the show. You can find me at gohuntlife.com and also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest at Go Hunt Life. Until next time, stay weird, dare greatly, and ripcord out.